Okay, now we're going to go ahead and talk about Jamal Adams as his trade to the Seahawks with our guest Shane Kaneshiro, who's a familiar face, second time on the podcast for good reason. He knows a lot about NFL and give us his perspective as a Niner fan to kind of counter our dreamy days of, getting Jamal Adams as a Seahawks player. So let's get right into it.
I'll first go over the trade because it was a massive trade. We all knew Jamal Adams wanted out. So the Jets traded him to the Seahawks. In return, they got a really young guy in Bradley McDougall, 2 first-round picks, and a third-round pick. So the first-round pick this coming season and then next season, first-round pick. And in return, Seattle got Jamal Adams and a fourth-round pick for the 2022 season. So right off the gate, let's start off. What do you guys think? Who won the trade? Shane, let's start with you. Who do you think won the trade, the Jets or the Seahawks?
Dude, so I love President Mall, and as a Niner fan, I was hoping we got him. I mean, it sucks as a Niner fan to see him go to you guys, but I think it's a great pickup for you guys, especially with your other safety. What's his name?
Quandre Diggs.
That you got from Lions, yeah, with Quandre
Yep.
Diggs. That's a deadly safety combo, and especially playing us twice a year. I mean, you got George Kittle, probably the greatest tight end ever, maybe. You guys got to defend him. They're gonna have Jamal Adams probably play up in the box to defend Kittle. Like I could see him almost filling that Cam Chancellor type of role.
Yeah, exactly.
So probably like a safety middle linebacker hybrid kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, I personally wish we got them, but it's too bad. I mean, the Niners have been causing kind of a frenzy in in the NFC West, with the Cardinals trading for Hopkins. Now you guys trading for Adams. Maybe you
Yeah,
guys can catch up to us this year, but we'll see.
We can definitely get into how the NFC West has definitely been that division to trade for. But you're right. I mean, Jamal Adams getting traded, we kind of all knew it. Rita, what was your gut reaction first about it when you heard about
I
it?
think it's clear that the Seahawks are in need of some more defense. We're just not the same team, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Our defense is clearly lacking, ever since Richard Sherman left, Earl Thomas left, Cam Chancellor retired. So we definitely needed some defensive help. And I think our secondary right now is okay, even with McDougall. I really liked him. He was really good, I think. I think Shane could say the same. He was respectable safety, right? But he's not Jamal Adams. And we definitely need some defense. Again, because you said, Drew, the West is crazy now. The Niners are great. We already know that. The Cardinals have a great new quarterback, Kyler Murray. They picked up Nuke. It's gonna be a battle, and I think Adams fits right in because, again, like Shane said, we're kind of missing that Cam Chancellor, that big safety that can play linebacker, that can also play safety, can blitz, but can also cover. And he matches up great with someone like a Kittle. Like, who are we gonna put Kittle on? Before Adams, so it makes sense. We gave up a lot, but I think we have to go for it, right? Because Russell is in his prime. We have a good running back right now. We have a growing, wide receiver core. And we just needed some defense really badly. I think Adams fits right in.
Solid, yeah. What do you guys think about the draft load that the Seahawks gave to the Jets? So it's 2 first-round picks, a third, and a starting caliber safety. In that sense, do you guys think it was what do you guys think? Do you think the Seahawks could have got less for him since they knew he wanted out, or do you think what do you think the haul was? Thinking 2 years down the line, do you think the Jets can capitalize on this, or what do you guys think for their end?
So that's one thing I kind of looked at. It was 2 first round picks and McDougall, and what was it, another second rounder or something?
It was I believe it was a fourth, or maybe it was a third.
I think we got the fourth though, right?
Okay, it was a third.
You guys got the fourth.
Yeah.
But it was a massive haul. But I mean, for a guy like Prez, he's I said, top 5 player in the NFL. But in a way, he's gonna demand over 15 mil. He's got it, because I think Eddie Jackson on the Bears right now is getting paid around there, so he's definitely gonna get over that. And then in reality, I was thinking also you guys could have signed Earl, I think, for cheaper. So but you said you guys didn't get Earl. You guys, I feel like Jamal Adams is definitely better than Earl, and he'll be there for the future. But it's gonna be a big. It was a massive trade, and also you guys are gonna have to pay a shit ton in the future. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think as much as I love Earl, I think that bridge was burned when he got injured, and flipped off the coaches. So as much as I love him, I don't know if that could have been worked out in a deal.
Yeah.
When you talk about Earl Thomas and Jamal Adams, they're definitely two people in two different areas. Obviously, Earl Thomas is coming off the injury, is a bit older, quite a bit older, and you get Jamal Adams as a 24-year-old coming off 2 Pro Bowl selections. But he will demand a contract, and I think looking at it right now, I think the Seahawks have the money and are in position to pay him. The only contract that comes up for the Seahawks is Shaquille Griffin, the cornerback. So that's the only person that the Seahawks need to sign. Bobby Wagner is signed for 3 years. Russell Wilson signed for 4 years. So it's kind of like you have the cornerstones in place. Is this the player to push him over the top? Ryota, do you think Jamal Adams is the player to push Seahawks over the top in contention for the Super Bowl?
I think so. It definitely is a huge upgrade. And again, we're like in this win now mindset, but I think it also makes sense for the future, right? We need a superstar secondary because that's what the Seahawks have been about, right? When we had Cam, Earl, Bobby Wagner, that was what it was all about, Sherm. So I think it really fills that need. And yeah, and I think we gave up a lot. And from the Jets perspective, I think they won the trade because, they were trying to get rid of him anyways. So it's really good for the Jets to get some good first-round picks that they can really build off of, considering that they don't have a whole lot right now. And I think the Seahawks, again, just need a defense to compete in this division, in this league now. Because I think our offense is fine the way it is. Just we really need to work on our defense. Let me pull up some defensive numbers from last year. So I was looking on Football Outsiders, looking at defensive efficiency. Seahawks are 17th. It's not very good.
17th in full defense, or is that pass rush?
Full defense.
Full defense. I would say that our secondary, the Seahawks secondary, and I think, Shane, you can contest to this, our secondary is probably the best out of our defense, and our D-line, our pass rush was probably the weakest, especially going up against the 49ers or, even the Packers. You need to consistently have pressure on the quarterback because it's really hard to get a coverage sack compared to just a pure rush sack. So, with this trade, it kind of cuts out Jadeveon Clowney returning. So there's that kind of instance. If we were to look at it both ways, the Seahawks need to have a defensive line to create pressure because, the wide receivers nowadays, especially in the NFC West, with Kittle, Deebo Samuels, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, like they can get they're so good that they can get open. And I think the Seahawks right now just need to focus on that defensive line, which Jamal Adams can rush, but he's not going to rush every single play.
No, I think that's why Jamal's so vital, right? He's not just a free safety. He's a strong safety that can rush. He's arguably one of the best blitzing safeties in the league, right? I think we can all say that. So he really helps because right now the Seahawks have Bruce Irvin, who, if he can get back to what he was when he was with the Seahawks, that could be really important. But that's a major if right now, right? We have Jaron Reed at defensive tackle who's been okay. Benson Mayowa, Puna Ford, LJ Collier. And then, yeah, you're right. The secondary linebacker core is great right now. I think Seahawks are in a great position. But, does this entice Jadeveon Clowney to sign with the Seahawks? I don't know. People are speculating. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, I think Clowney wants to win too. And this could entice him, but we'll see.
Yeah. What do you think about 49ers perspective when you see Jadeveon Clowney, Jamal Adams in the secondary compared to Bradley McDougald?
Obviously, I think it's a huge upgrade. The Niners, I still believe, even they feel that we're still at the top, like we're still the team to beat. But the Seahawks, you guys just signing Jamal Adams kind of brings you that much closer. I think kind of narrows the gap. Just even the NFC West just stacked. Like look at all the top players now. Like look, you got Nuke, you got Prez, you got Kittle, Aaron Donald. All these I'd say top 10, top 20 players in the NFL. The NFC West is just stacked now. We're easily, I think, the most competitive division in the NFL. So it's gonna be a fun year.
That's true. Plus, Jamal Adams is young, like you alluded to, Ryota. So hopefully if they can sign him. I think re-signing him is a big if too, because I think we all know he wants top money. So for this trade to work out, the Seahawks need to come to an extension, and then that would, I mean, in essence, kind of stop the quote unquote haters for this trade, because it is an if he resigns with us. You know, it's not a given. Knowing his history. Okay, so let's transition over to the Jets. The Seahawks' last 10 picks have all been down below in the draft order. I don't think they've had a top 10 pick for a while. Do you guys believe the Jets can come to a caliber player with the 2 picks that they have in the first round to kind of fill the void of Jamal Adams? Or do you think, I mean, yeah, what do you guys think about that, those 2 first round picks, and how important are they to the Jets?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Jets are kind of in like they're kind of like in the middle. I'd say like they're almost in a rebuilding phase. Then also like they might be like a very fringe playoff team, maybe. You know, like because they have Darnold, they're still young. You know, Robbie Anderson and like Quinn Williams, so like they're young. And then just adding like more draft picks, just more players, like this just gives you more like building block pieces. And I think like any guys in the first round, like they're like potential starters, like right off the bat. So just getting 2 more, and like maybe the Seahawks getting like what? Maybe your pick like at best, maybe in the teens, maybe like early late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that could be a solid pick for them, especially just like especially where they're at, and then just trying to add more pieces. So I think like adding 2 more first rounders and then Bradley McDougall right now to fill kind of the Jamal Adams void just kind of adds more players, because adding 2 guys and like a Bradley McDougall I think could do a lot more for the Jets than just one Jamal Adams. So
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I mean, looking back at the draft, it is kind of like a hit or miss if you think about it.
it is. Yeah.
I know the Jets haven't had the best record in the drafting, and I know they drafted pretty high as well. So like you get like a player like Jamal Adams where it's not much development because he has the talent, you know, because he's a top 10 pick. But then when you get down to the late teens, you start developing the players, or the need to develop. And I'm not so sure the Jets are able to be honest with you. I don't think they've done well drafting and developing players. I think these 2 first round picks, they might seem good on paper, but I think we would have to, especially with this draft coming up and the possibility of no season for college football, I think it's even harder. I mean, I don't know. Just looking at like their draft history, I feel like if the Seahawks were to tank and get a first pick overall, I think of course they win the trade. But right now, I think a lot of people think they gave up too much, but I mean, I don't know. It depends on how the Jets do it, because the draft picks are only good as well, or the draft picks are only as valuable as the people drafting for it. And I don't think the Jets have had that in the past.
Yeah, I mean, especially the Seahawks can go out and get a player like Jamal Adams. Like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why not? Why like, coin flip and draft like some guys, and then like
Yeah.
opposed to just getting Jamal Adams, who's like clearly top player in this league, and just he's like he could be a cornerstone for you guys for a long time. So.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the 49ers had to do to give up Jamal Adams? What would you, as a 49er fan, be willing to give up if you had the chance?
Yeah, so like seeing what the Seahawks had to give up for him, I'd say the Niners would have had to give up like I said, Jaquaski, maybe Dante Pettis, and like a first and a second, something like that. I think that'd be a pretty even return. I mean, depends. It just depends how they would have viewed Dante Pettis. Like I still think Dante Pettis has some room to grow. He was in Shanahan's doghouse last year, but I think he could become like a real player. So yeah, but it's tough. It's tough. I would have liked the Niners to definitely get President Maul, but I don't know. Would have given up a lot for him, and then plus with all our expiring contracts, and like especially we're gonna have to re-sign Kittle. We're gonna give Kittle probably like top tier, like record breaking tight end money. I'm saying like 15 mil. It's probably like up of 15 mil. So, and then Bosa is gonna be up in a little bit. Fred Warner is gonna be up soon. So those are guys still on the rookie contract. So when their rookie contract's over, we're gonna have to break the bank for those guys. So it would have been tough to have President Maul right now, and then extend him after too. So
yeah. Rio, do you have any thoughts about the trade in general too?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that Rashad Penny was not involved in the deal. I think if you're the Jets, you're probably looking for a young running back because right now they have Le'Veon, who's about, I think, 28 or 29, right? Like Frank Gore behind him, and then Trent Cannon and Kenneth Dixon at the fourth. But I don't know. For some reason, I've always thought Rashad Penny was a huge trade chip for us, and I'm surprised the Jets didn't want to take a chance on him. And again, maybe I guess they wanted draft picks to maybe decide on their own who they really wanted. But I think the Jets could probably pick a running back in the future with our draft picks, especially if it's going to be like a late first rounder. I think that's sometimes where decent running backs go. So I would be surprised if they go for running back there, especially if they're kind of in this middle phase where they keep Le'Veon, but maybe foster a good backup, rookie running back. But looking at their team, yeah, I think from the Niners perspective, yeah, Dante Pettis could have been really intriguing for the Jets because they have Crowder and Perriman, Denzel Mims, who I don't even know who he is. So having Dante Pettis work with Darnold and maybe build a repertoire, that could have been a really dangerous duo going forward. So yeah, I think I was just kind of flustered that we still have Penny honestly out of this trade. So
yeah, that is true. He is coming off an injury, so maybe they didn't like that. But you're right. I mean, the Seahawks still have two running backs, Rashard Penny and Chris Carson's. But I guess you are right. I mean, for the safety position, do you guys value the safety position more or the running back position more when you think about just NFL teams?
100%. Like almost like I could almost say running back is like the least valued position in the NFL. Like just the lifespan, the career span of a running back in the NFL. Like those guys are getting beat up. Like dude, like they're just running into guys all day, and like lifespan of a running back can be pretty short. Like so that's why you see all these running backs like holding out. Trying to get that long contract and stuff. But like as you can see, like a running back can be very good, but I think an O line is just as important. Like you can put like a lot of the like middle tier running backs behind a great O line, and they can just go off for a season. Like especially like the Cowboys. See their O line, how dominant they've been, and then just add Zeke on top of that. Like, I mean, Zeke's a tremendous running back, but you have to give credit to that line too. That line is just stacked.
Yeah, that is true, especially because that you only see him for 5 or 6 years. I have another question proposed to you guys. So the last two big trades that were seen as kind of like a fleece in a sense would be Khalil Mack going to the Chicago Bears, and then also Jalen Ramsey going to the Los Angeles Rams. Do you guys believe this trade is similar to those two? And if so, why? And if not, can you elaborate on that? Because, so for instance, Jamal Adams is a safety, but Jalen Ramsey is the cornerback, and then Khalil Mack's obviously an outside pass rusher. So do you guys value those two players more than Jamal Adams, or what are you guys' first take on that when compared to those two trades?
I think for me, Khalil Mack is on a different tier than Ramsey. Maybe that's just me. I don't like.
It
Ramsey
might be because of the position he plays too.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Khalil Mack, I think, was arguably the best at that position at the time. Jalen Ramsey was a debatable top 5. He could be a 1 for somebody, but someone could say he's a 5. I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1. But I think Jamal Adams the safety position in general is so valuable because, I don't know, I feel like that's like trading for a shortstop or a catcher in baseball because those positions are so vital. Like if you trade for a left fielder, it's kind of like meh, whatever. Center field is clearly more important than left field. So I think that's kind of how I see it. So, I think the middle linebacker position, the safety position, those positions are just so much more important than the cornerback position. And even arguably Khalil Mack's position, but I think Khalil Mack was just number 1 at that time. That trade is just so much. To me, it's just like on a different level with Jalen Ramsey's trade, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be kind of similar because you're thinking about all these guys are game changers, right? All these players are game changers, and whenever you're gonna go out and trade for like a top 10 NFL player, like all these guys, like you're gonna have to give up a lot, but you're getting like a clear cut superstar. So all these teams like Ramsey. I mean, Ramsey was kind of struggled a little bit. Like he had a couple breakout years, and I think last year. I mean, I don't know if he struggled, but I wouldn't say he was like that lockdown corner like he was the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy like Khalil Mack, and I think a guy like Jamal Adams, like those guys are clear game changers. Like those guys are like game wreckers. Like they can swing a game with like a play. So I mean, you know what you're getting with these guys, and like I think it was a good trade, and it's gonna definitely benefit the Seahawks.
What do you guys think about? So obviously those two guys are game changers, but they had to give up a lot of capital, and at the end of the day, none of those teams made the playoffs. So do you think this is similar to maybe what the road the Seahawks are going down because they gave up those first round picks for those two players, but we don't see them in the playoffs or contending? What do you guys think about that when I say that?
I think the Bears, I don't know. Just the Bears, I mean, Trubisky being there, you can say they're just not that good. I also want to note, so the picks that the Bears traded away to the Raiders got Josh Jacobs with their 2019 first round pick. So, I mean, yeah, you never know what really happens with these draft picks. Like, I think clearly in that case, the Raiders were probably blessed that they got Josh Jacobs, and he's a standout running back for the future. But I mean, I think the Bears were kind of just in that weird limbo too. Like, it didn't really make sense at the time because I thought they were kind of in a rebuild. They had Trubisky, they thought was going to be their cornerstone QB. Who was their running back?
For who?
The Bears. Who were the Bears have as running back?
Montgomery.
David Montgomery.
Yeah, right. So it seemed like they were kind of in a rebuild situation, and then they suddenly get Khalil Mack. Just didn't really make sense to me. So I think the Seahawks are definitely a different boat than the Bears, right? The Seahawks are still trying to. Well, they have been competitive. They've not quite as maybe as 2018 or 17, but they're still arguably top 10 best teams, right? But I think the Bears just weren't in that top 10 to start with, so it didn't really make sense for me. But I think the Ramsey trade makes sense because the Rams have, they were peaking at that time also.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, Shane, do you want to elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so I was gonna say like about like your cap question, like whenever you're like trying to maneuver around like the salary cap, like it's a tough situation to be in. That's why like the Niners, you saw they traded Defoe, right? We got a first round pick, and then we didn't re-sign Emmanuel Sanders, but look, in return, our first round draft pick, we got Javon Kinlaw, who he's probably the best D tackle in this year's draft class. D tackle, he maybe played outside the end, and like he's on a rookie contract. Instead of like paying Defoe, number 2 D tackle in the NFL money, right behind Aaron Donald. So instead we replaced him with Kinlaw, who's now, because we're gonna have to maneuver around the cap with Kittle coming up and all those contracts expiring. And then especially, look, we let go of Emmanuel Sanders, we didn't re-sign him, and we got Brandon Ayuk. So now we got 2 guys. So we got Kinlaw to replace Defoe, and we got Ayuk to replace Sanders. And those guys are just on rookie contracts. So we're gonna be able to, stay below the cap, like by just drafting and then, not re-signing those guys.
See, I think that right there, like what you said right there, I don't have confidence in the Jets drafting that. Like I don't think Jets fans do either. I think like, okay, we're giving away our best draft pick like in the last 10 years. I think the last draft picks were let me just run down them. D. Milner, 9th pick, Calvin Pryor, Leonard Williams, Darren Lee, Sam Darnold, Quinn Williams, and they probably got the best tackle, Mekhi Becton. But I mean, the first like 4, they're not game changers. Like I don't think you were to say like, I'm going to give away my best player, but in return, I'm going to get 2 first-round picks. I feel like if you are a 49er fan or a Seahawks fan, you would feel like, okay, I have faith in these 2 picks because I've seen history. I've seen that Schneider or I've seen them like develop them. I don't know. If I was a Jets fan, I would be like, I just gave away my best player and I'm hopeful I'm going to get somebody close to that in return. But I think it speaks to like the GM and the level of like drafting, because I don't know. I feel like Jamal Adams was their best player in a while and their first round pick, and I feel like they might screw these 2 picks up. Like they have to hit on these 2 first picks in order to make sense.
I agree. I mean, especially with like, I think the Jamal Adams trade was more of like just like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
They wanted to keep him, but then like, you know, like it all went to shits last year when they said, oh, Jamal Adams on the trading block, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Adams is like what? I thought you guys were trying to make me like your franchise player. So like once that happens, you know, he kind of went off, and then now that like bond between him and the ownership is like, I don't think that could have been salvaged. So, you know, they're in a tough situation.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
Adams didn't seem happy there in the end, especially like with them sucking, and then with the ownership trying to trade him. So it's more of, I think, almost like it's like we got to get rid of this guy, but we want to get something in return from him because we know how good he is. But they didn't really, I think, Jamal Adams himself and the ownership didn't really see like a future like with each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that is true. Rita, do you want to speak on the last things before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think, you know, like Shane said, Jamal Adams was trying to get out of there. So that's why I think Jets really won this trade. Like, you know, they saved money on not paying him. They got rid of a player that you could consider was being toxic to the team environment or whatever, right? And then you get 2 first-round picks. But at the same time, yeah, we never know what happens with these picks, you know? They got, I don't know, DK Metcalf in return. That would have been a huge, you know, like for sheer, oh, good job, Jets. But yeah, you never know with draft picks, you know? Who knows? Maybe they'll end up drafting the next Josh Jacobs with the 24th pick in the first round, or pick a total bust of a player. Like, yeah, it's hard to say. But, I mean, from a Seahawks perspective, I think we won. We got what we wanted, or at least an upgrade, you know, and the Jets got rid of what they wanted, you know, who they wanted to get rid of. So I think it was a good trade overall, and yeah.
Yeah. All right. Shane, do you want to speak on the last things, or are you good to go?
No, I think I'm all good with that, you know. That's enough Jamal Adams Seahawks talk for me for now.
Yeah, Shane's probably hurting just talking about
Shane's
it.
probably like, this sucks. This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah,
all right. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, because, yeah, I think Adams, you're right, is probably a better matchup to Mark Kittle, and we'll see who wins that battle.
Yeah. It will make the rivalry even more better, I think. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see if the NFL season even starts, but it will be enticing come game time.
Huge year. It's going to be crazy.
Got to lock down our bets for the Seahawks.
We'll see those odds. I already locked down my Niners bets. Placed it through Sean when we were in Vegas. So when he was in Vegas. So, you know, I always got to hammer the Niners, you know, every NFL season.
Oh, gosh. All right. Thank you, Shane, for coming on. We'll switch over to MLB, but we're just going to wrap this segment up. So thanks for coming on. And, yeah, this was our discussion of the Jamal Adams Seahawks trade. All right. See you guys.
Yeah. Sure, thanks for having me on, bro.